All right, today we're going to talk about thrust linearization, specifically how to solve this problem. What problem, you might ask? We'll stick around and find out. So thrust linearization is an added feature in Betaflight that's off by default, and it's there to help address a fundamental issue we see in motor thrust. You see, the PID controller expects a linear response in thrusts. So as the PID controller is operating, it is expecting a response as shown as this black line. But what happens in reality is all the motors with different prop combinations, they're always reacting in a way as shown here. This is data from Mini-Quad Test Bench. This is the iFlight Zing 2206 specifically, 1700 kV, and then these are the different prop selections over here. And you're going to see this throughout any of this stuff, and I'll drop a link to Mini-Quad Test Bench below, and you can check out your motors and see the thrust response that you're going to get with those. But it's not what the PID controller expects. So it adjusts accordingly, but that obviously takes more cycles to do that. Basically, at a fundamental, the PID controller is producing a command and expecting a certain amount of change. It's not getting that change, and then it's going through the loop iteration to adjust accordingly. Now, it happens at thousands of times per second, but the closer we can get the response to what the PID controller expects, then obviously it would increase flight performance. That's what thrust linearization is there to help with. So thrust linearization has been in Betaflight for quite some time. You can see the pull request was from January 8th, 2019. And this graph kind of shows what the intent is. As you have the motor thrust kind of bowing down, thrust linearization basically applies a opposite curve. So it's going to boost the PIDs down lower and reduce the PIDs up higher to kind of compensate for that inverted thrust. So if you have an invert this way, it's going to boost the PIDs the other way. It's kind of like a more advanced TPA, where it's boosting at the bottom of throttle and decreasing at the top of throttle to kind of make everything more linear for PID response. So you have higher gains at the bottom, so it's going to push harder, and then lower gains at the top, so it's going to push less, and then kind of even out right in the middle. And another way to look at that is just taking this line, say this is about mid-throttle here, and I'm going to just bring this down to here so that the 1.0 position is right there on mid-throttle, and you can see up here, we're going to reduce the PIDs so that it brings this down, and then increase the PIDs down here so it pushes this up. And that's going to, again, linearize the response, hopefully, of the motors. Now, you don't want to go too far on thrust linearization because you'll invert the opposite direction, but that's the concept. So how do you know if your quad specifically is producing symptoms that the thrust is not linear? Well, one of the things you can do is log the raw noise in Black Box and take that through PID Toolbox or the Spectrum Analyzer in Black Box Explorer. And you would see this band, this motor orange band, which you've shown in other videos. And if you see that kind of roll off as it goes up in the higher throttle amounts, that's an indication that you're having a nonlinear response, of course, to the commands, as you're increasing throttle, that's not linear going up. Conversely, if you see that noise band just going straight up linearly, then your RPM response is linear, which is a sign that your thrust is linear. And you can see this is well documented. There's all kinds of papers on this concept, and you can see this is what we're talking about here, how RPM is rolling off as the PWM signal is increasing. That's a sign of a nonlinear thrust reaction of your motors. So if you go to tiny.cc/uavtech, I have a calculator down here that CTZ Snooze or Chris Thompson drafted up when he was helping evaluate thrust linearization, which is a big thanks to Joe Lucid for this code. And there was a lot of people in that PR, which is linked down below. And you can see all the detail analysis of what these guys went through. A lot of work and energy was spent on it to vet the concept and see a best way to address it. Anyways, this Excel file, Chris drafted up, so let's take a look at that. So opening this up, what I'm going to do is set all the gains to 50, just so we have all the same line across here. Then I'm going to set thrust linear to 1. At 0, as it is in Betaflight defaults, it's not active, but I can't set this sheet to 0 because you get divide by 0 issues. With this, you can see that the multiplier for any of the throttle amounts here, so this is your throttle range. This is 0% throttle, 100% throttle. It's basically not adjusting the PIDs at all at 1. It's just it's just whatever's coming in is going out. It's not making any adjustments. Let's go ahead and set this to 20, and you can kind of see what we get here. Now at 50% throttle, we're getting a 1.0 multiplier on the PIDs. So if your PIDs are 50, say your P term's 50, at around 5% throttle, it's actually boosting it up to a 60 gain. And as you go to 50% throttle, then it's 50. And as you go up more towards 100% throttle, that's going to be around 42. So the higher the thrust linearization value, so say if I move this up to 50, the more it's going to increase the PIDs down low and decrease them up high. So how do we set thrust linearization? Well, it's not in the graphical user interface of the Betaflight configurator. You have to go to the CLI. We're going to type get thrust, and you can see it right here. So from here, you would just, typically what I do at least, I just copy the line, I type set, paste the line, and then I can put in my value. What is a recommended value to try? Anywhere from 0 to 25. I would start off kind of low and just increase it maybe on different flights you're doing, see if it helps with different moves, prop wash, things of that nature. It might, if you have your tune tweaked out and there's really no issues you're trying to solve, then I probably wouldn't try to bring in thrust linearization. But if there's things like bobbles, specifically for larger rigs where you're getting on the throttle and chopping the throttle and you're having a nose dip or something of that nature, then maybe give thrust linearization a try and see if that helps. Obviously, for crafts that are high power to weight ratio, thrust linearization is probably not going to help that much. But if you have a low power to weight ratio like whoops or big crafts, 7-inch, 9-inch, things of that nature, then I think thrust linearization is definitely worth your time to give it a look. So big thanks to Joe Lucid for introducing thrust linearization to Betaflight. There's also some exciting work going on in regard to throttles where you get off the throttle and then you see the nose pitch down. And as I've talked about before, that's a P term issue, not so much I term when it comes to anti-gravity. Excitingly, Chris Thompson's working on that. There's also some exciting things in the works in regard to the issue of when you get off the throttle and the nose dips down, or when you're throttle punching it. Like I've talked about before, that's a P term issue. So if you want to hear more on that, head over to my Patreon. We're going to have a midweek video on this topic and some things that people can look at and some more depth on that subject. All right, so that is it. If you found that content useful, please make sure to smash that like button. Of course, if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe and consider joining the Patreon for as little as $2 a month for additional bonus midweek content. Again, thanks everybody, and I hope this helped.
And smash that like button, please. Cause then if you guys get me 1 billion likes, then I can make videos that are Fortnite. So do you want Fortnite videos or this video? What's better?